So, what's all this about the Fusion Group? Well, I'd like first to talk about the company, the Fusion Group, and then to talk about our little secret weapon called Ready, Set, Go. And finally, about something we think is very special, the long-term effects of practice in our methods called One Story, Many Voices. Well, now what about the Fusion Group? Fusion was founded in 1984, and we noticed that when people were teaching business folks about communication, there was a lot of focus on style. There was a lot of focus on delivery. There were a lot of questions about what do I do with my hands. And I noticed that once people learned what to do with their hands, they were still in a deep state of confusion about what to say. And often they were unclear about why they were in the room. In other words, they weren't clear on their objective or their purpose for being present. And so in the early days, we started recognizing that a human being is a composite. A human being is a body, a mind, and a spirit together. And as Peter Drucker said, if you speak only to a man's body, chances are he will arrive at work on time. If you speak to his mind, he'll begin to think of ways to improve his work process. And if you speak to his spirit as well, he will be at work on time thinking, as well as his wife, his children, and everyone he knows. So we believed from the very beginning that there's more to teaching communication than teaching people how to look. You must also teach them how to think, and you must ask them to consider what they hope to achieve by communicating. And when you work on all three areas, you begin to pull all of the parts of a human being together and achieve more than the sum of the parts. Fusion. Now, that's the company, and that's our attitude. When it comes to talking about Ready, Set, Go, our little secret weapon for building presentations, we notice that most people start by saying, "What shall I say?" and then running from the list of details through the rest of the process, trying to avoid putting everything in the presentation, but often failing. And so many presentations have way more information and way more facts and details than an average listener can actually understand. So Ready, Set, Go is meant to give the presentation that will get the job done and give the listener what they need to make a decision. There are three parts to this. The first part is to establish an objective. What do I want the listener to do when I'm done? So it's not about how I should look or what I expect to say, it's about how I want the listener to react when I'm finished speaking. And we begin with that. Once we have an objective in mind, then we move along and we say, now, who am I speaking to? Let's profile, let's analyze our audience and decide how they think, what they're concerned about, what business pressures they're reacting to these days, and how would they respond to what we have to say, and how could we make that response more comfortable. So once we've done that analysis, we're going to find that many things we might have said are not going to be relevant to today's audience. Many things we hadn't thought about including now become relevant to the audience, and so our presentation begins to shape itself based on the audience and their atmosphere and their feelings on a particular day. Finally, we need to establish a structure or a format or a flow for our ideas. We would call that organizing our remarks. And at Fusion, we use a little box diagram that you'll see on the screen behind me to help the speaker think about a presentation as a logical flow, as a process, instead of using words, instead of using long sentences. So that instead of trying to write everything out longhand, you're going to simply put a word there for the opening, a word for the subject, a word each for 3 topics, a couple of words for the details under each topic, a couple of words for the key points under each topic, a main idea, a word or two, and a word or two to symbolize the next step. So that now you have the complete flow, beginning, middle, and end of your presentation, but you have it done in a visual format, kind of like a map. So that rather than try and remember complete sentences as you go, you're going to be looking at a word and improvising around that word, but doing a great job of it because you have that audience analysis and the objective already in mind. So Ready, Set, Go, a proprietary system that we've been polishing for 30 years, and we're finding that it's gotten a great deal of use in the financial services industry, in aircraft manufacturing, in food and beverage, and of course advertising and marketing. We have also turned it into software these days so that once you learn the process, it can reside on your desktop, on your computer, It can be in your breast pocket in the form of a 3x5 card tool so that you can sketch and scribble in a meeting, or of course in a full-size pad that you can carry in your briefcase so that you can improvise at will. Ready, set, go. Now finally, we've got individuals pretty able and pretty solid in putting a presentation together. Now it's time to think about the outcome for the company. Imagine the outcome for the company if you got really good at Ready, Set, Go, and you became really articulate and straightforward about your presentations. Well, imagine for the outcome of the company if you and all of your colleagues in the field sales department became excellent and articulate at the same time. And maybe we'll use that as a foundation. Imagine then what would happen if all of the people on the sales and service desk on the telephone began using a similar system to communicate. And then the effect on the company if the people in marketing began to communicate in print using the same basic Ready, Set, Go approach. And then perhaps we'd take the same approach to the web, making our communication simple, straightforward, and elegant. We suggest that the value to the firm might be, well, probably in the 6 or 8 figures. This is what it takes to build a brand. So to summarize today, 3 parts to our system, a little bit of background about the Fusion Group, and we think ultimately we're trying to improve the value and the effectiveness of the individual so that you as an individual can increase your value and your effectiveness and your satisfaction with your communication. Next, when we talk about Ready, Set, Go, we're trying to improve the value and the effectiveness of an individual presentation. And finally, we're trying to improve the value and the effectiveness of the entire corporation. So one story, many voices means the power of having everyone telling a single story. I think that covers our perspective on life in the communication business, and we look forward to having the opportunity to talk further.